Now, you might ask yourself, what kind of person would try to screw over Medicare recipients? Have I got a story for you, because it just so happens that Rick Scott himself personally oversaw the largest Medicare fraud in U.S. history at the time when, as CEO of Columbia HCA Hospital, his company billed Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal programs for tests that were never ordered, attached false diagnosis codes to patient records to increase reimbursements to the hospitals, claimed non-reimbursable advertising costs as community education, and billed the government for home visits to patients that didn't qualify to receive them. The hospital company was fined a staggering $1.7 billion, which was, at that point, the largest healthcare fraud fine ever levied by the Justice Department. And Rick Scott, trying to escape accountability, resigned as CEO fewer than 4 months after the investigation became public. So when he pretends to care about the integrity of these programs, just remember that he already undermined those programs once. He already stole money from Medicare and Medicaid, programs that service the elderly, the poor, the disabled, and the sick, so that he could line his pockets as the CEO. That is who Rick Scott is. Which is probably why, if Rick Scott had his way and gets the Republican Senate majority that he's trying to as chair of the NRSC, he's made it his priority that Republicans would pass legislation sunsetting all federal programs after 5 years, which means that Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security would be as good as gone. Remember, these are programs that Republicans have been threatening to torpedo for decades, and now Rick Scott has introduced a vehicle for them to do exactly that. So if you're of the 40% of Americans who use Medicare or Medicaid, or have family members who do, then make sure you are well aware that if you vote for Republicans to control the U.S. Senate in November, you are voting to eliminate Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security by the end of the decade. And finally, not to bring sand to the beach here, but just one more clip that I think does a pretty good job at exposing the shameless hypocrisy of Rick Scott, most recently while speaking at CPAC.
Everyone will obey, and no one will be allowed to complain. If you do speak up, boom, you're going to be canceled. Your views, if you don't conform with Big Tech, Fauci, or Neil Young, you're going to be taken off Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. The militant left in America are the modern-day version of book burners.
The left is the modern-day version of book burners. And if you think that seems like a strange thing for a Republican to say, you'd be right, because Republicans across the country have quite literally been banning books on race and LGBT issues. So it's a tad bit misleading to suggest that Democrats are akin to modern-day book burners when Rick Scott is part of a political party that is literally modern-day book burners. And look, we could do this all day, but I think the point is clear. Rick Scott isn't interested in the truth any more than he's interested in saving any American's money. Rick Scott is solely interested in protecting the moneyed interests that serve his campaign. And if that means that he'll lie directly to your faces to preserve that system, then that is very clearly exactly what he's going to do.